I'll let a couple of people get to their seats. Good morning, directors. I now call this joint meeting of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency and the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency. We will begin with the invocation led by Vice Chair Kelly and the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Schnell. Please rise.
Please join me. Our Father, we are so very grateful for this county, this community that in which we live. We ask that you would give your blessing to our communities and that you would give us, as directors, give us wisdom in making important decisions for the agency, for the region. We ask for shields of protection around those who protect us, our police, our firefighters, and those on the roads. We ask for your protection around them as well. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you both. And now, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Chair Heft.
Present.
Director Connors. Alternate Frost. Director Grant. Director Hurt. Director Otto. Director Stevens. Director Beal.
Here.
Director Bilodeau. Director Chafee.
Present.
Director Frost.
Here.
Alternate Wong.
Present.
Director Meeks.
Here.
Director Schnell.
Here.
Director Voits.
Here.
Chair Taylor.
Here.
Vice Chair Kelly.
Here.
Vice Chair Penaloza. Alternate Annis.
Here.
Director Kahn.
Here.
Director Wagner. Director Zhao. We have quorum on both boards.
Thank you. And now I'll go on to public comments. Madam Clerk, are there any public commenters?
There are no public comments.
Okay, well, then we will move on to our consent calendar for the San Joaquin Hills Board. Would any directors like to pull any items for discussion or comment or question?
Second, Heft.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Connors and a second by Chair Heft. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And that would be unanimous. Thank you. And now we'll move on to the Foothill Eastern Corridor Agency consent calendar items 1, 2, and 4. Does anybody want to pull an item or for discussion or question? Seeing none, we have a motion from Director Voits. Do we have a second? Second from Director Meeks. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? None. Seeing none, that's unanimous. Okay, moving right along, we'll go on to our board business items, 5 through 8. Now we will have the item number 5, State Legislative Watch List from Barbie Daly.
Make sure everything's working. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Chair Taylor and directors. Barbie Daly, Interim Director of Government Affairs. The item before you today is the 2024 State Legislative Watch List. Since TCA's inception, the agencies have been very active in Sacramento in order to stay informed on issues that are important to TCA and to have the ability to be nimble should an issue need to be addressed quickly. Every 2 years, in conjunction with the new legislative session, staff, along with our legislative advocates, develop a legislative platform for the board's review and adoption. The platform identifies issues that may be pursued and possibly require board action. Staff and advocates use the platform as our policy guidelines as we represent TCA in Sacramento. The 2023-2024 state legislative platform that the boards approved in February of 2023 provides the basis for TCA's legislative program that we'll be pursuing this year. Each year, new bills are introduced by the legislature. This year's deadline was February 16th. As bills were introduced over the past several weeks, our advocacy team reviewed each of them to identify those which may require monitoring or board action. 56 bills have been identified and included in the 2024 watch list. And over the next several weeks, that number could increase as spot and intent bills start to take shape. As you can see here, more than 2,000 bills were introduced by the deadline, of which a little over 1,500 were in the Assembly and just over 600 in the Senate. Of that number, there were 674 placeholder bills, 481 spot bills, and 193 intent bills, indicating that approximately 32% of the overall bills introduced lack any substantive language at this time. Hence the reason we have to be very vigilant as bills evolve. The focus areas for the watch list as outlined in the state platform are here: governance, operations and finance, housing and development fees, privacy, resources, of course, transportation, and the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. At this time, staff is not recommending a position on any of these bills. However, I would like to highlight a few bills of interest. AB 817, introduced by Assemblymember Pacheco, is a 2-year bill that advanced out of the Assembly in January and is now awaiting a committee referral in the Senate. This bill would allow TCA committees, but not the boards, to participate remotely without just cause or emergency circumstance. While it appears to make meetings more flexible, we are currently evaluating the bill, as I've outlined here. AB 817 wouldn't require us to disclose the remote location or open it to the public, and it doesn't require a quorum of the committee members to participate in person. But it does require a majority vote of the board and specific findings before the first meeting and every 12 months thereafter. There are some potential challenges to be considered. Should the boards choose to participate remotely, we would be required to provide both audio and video participation for the public. Committee members would also be required to participate through both video and audio. And there's also a greater potential for technical issues if all the committee members are participating remotely. That could significantly interrupt the meeting or impact the ability to continue committee business until the issues are resolved. SB 768 is another 2-year bill that that got out of the Senate in January and is currently in the Assembly awaiting a committee assignment. This bill is related to vehicle miles traveled and requires the California State Air Resources Board, CARB, to complete and submit a study that evaluates how VMT is used to measure transportation impacts, how VMT impacts and mitigation requirements are identified, measured, and deployed, the methodology used to create reduction targets, the differences in VMT mitigation measures in rural versus urban areas, and the relationship between VMT and greenhouse gas emissions reduction on housing, transportation, and economic development and equity. While this bill doesn't impact TCA directly, and there are no ramifications of a study, there are potential benefits in that the study may demonstrate that VMT analysis is widely varied. This could potentially provide agencies subject to VMT requirements with measurements that can be used to make VMT mitigation regulations more transparent, effective, and fair. SB 947 was introduced by Senator Ciarto and has been referred to the Senate Transportation Committee and can be heard at any time. However, a hearing has not yet been set. This bill is related to design changes to projects that are already in a state transportation improvement plan or a state highway operation and protection program. It states that if Caltrans changes a design of a project for any other reason besides health and safety purposes, and the design changes end up costing more, the state would have to bear the burden of the additional costs. This is important to TCA as it could impact our CIP. Once our project is included in the STIP, should there be changes made by Caltrans that aren't related to health or safety, we would not be responsible for the cost of those changes. AB 2645, introduced by Assemblymember Lackey, is awaiting committee assignment in the Assembly and can be heard as of March 16th. This bill is related to the emergency alert system and is focused on tolling agencies as we use electronic toll collection systems. AB 2645 would require a toll agency to provide vehicle information to CHP and law enforcement in the event of an emergency as outlined on this slide. We would have to provide information if an emergency alert, such as an Amber Alert, identifies a license plate number and if that license plate number is identified through our electronic toll collection system. There are concerns for TCA. In order to comply, there would be additional costs that are not yet known. The bill also doesn't specify a duration that we would have to monitor for that particular plate. Would monitoring have to start the day before the alert, last a week later? The bill doesn't specify, so the parameters need to be set in terms of timing. TCA staff is already working closely with the other CTOC agencies as this bill moves forward. The final bill I'd like to highlight is AB 2729, introduced by Assemblymember Patterson. This bill has been referred to the Assembly Local Government Committee, but a hearing has not yet been set. AB 2729 is related to fees. Currently, TCA's fee program requires collection of the fee when the building permit is issued. AB 2729 proposes to change the schedule for the collection of fees until the final inspection permit, which could potentially delay TCA's ability to collect necessary fees. The city ordinances passed by your cities outline their obligations under the Development Impact Fee Program, specifying that the fee be collected at the time the building permit is issued. Changing the process could create administrative issues for cities. Also, each of our member cities have procedures in place and training associated with those procedures. This would be a significant change to the program and one that could negatively impact TCA's ability to collect fees in a timely manner. Collecting fees when the building permit is issued also provides certainty and control to ensure the fees will be collected. TCA's fee program is also conducted in the same manner as the County of Orange, wherein fees are collected when building permits are issued. The board recommendation for both the San Joaquin Hills and the Foothill Eastern boards is to adopt the 2024 State Legislative Watch List, and that concludes my report, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Barbie. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, Director Schnell.
Great. Thank you for doing that. It was great, very helpful. Just a question, what is the rationale for postponing the fees until the certificate of occupancy or the completion of the project? Just trying to understand what the benefit is.
Sure, thank you, Director Snell. I appreciate that. So we like to wait to see if a bill is going to move forward or is amended in a way that would be acceptable to TCA. This bill, while in the local government committee, has not yet had a hearing. And once it does, we'll have an opportunity to see if it's amended. And we also have plenty of time to come back to the committee and then the boards before this bill moves forward once it gets through the initial committee. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll start with the, oh, pardon me. Vice Chair Kelly.
Sorry, I wasn't quick on hitting the right button. Thank you, Ms. Daly. These briefings that you give are so valuable to us, and in the past, having a good, solid legislative platform has really helped us to head off bad legislation that could have impacted us. Some of us have lived through that, and so we appreciate the eagle eyes that you all have on this process as it goes forward. Do you have an idea of when AB 17 may be coming up.
That is a bill that was a 2-year bill, and so it will not move beyond it's moved beyond the Senate, the Assembly. It's in the Senate. It hasn't been given a hearing yet, and that will not happen until after all the bills are out of the Assembly, and then we will know when it's going to be heard.
Okay, and that's one that I think has mixed, there's a benefit, but there's a huge downside to that I could see. So I think we want to keep a special eye on that, as well as the one that Director Schnell brought up about the fees. So thank you for all of this, and we look forward to seeing recommendations as they come forward.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to move on behalf of Foothill recommendation action.
Okay, Director Voight will take Foothill Eastern for first. So we have a motion by Director Voight. Do we have a second from the Foothill Board?
Second.
Second from Vice Chair Kelly. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. And now for San Joaquin Hills, we'll ask for a motion to adopt the legislative watch list. Moved by Director Grant.
I'll second.
Seconded by, actually, Director Connors beat you to it.
Oh, it's fine.
Director Connors. And all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Okay. Next, we'll move on to, and thank you, Barbie Daly. We appreciate that very much. We'll direct item number 6, Employee Handbook Update, and this will be presented by our new HR Director, Mark Mannion. Mark, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Vice Chairs, and Directors. Thanks for being here today. Good morning. My name is Mark Mannion. I'm the Senior HR Director at TCA. I recently joined the team a couple of months ago, back in January of 2024. Thanks for being here. I'd like to present to you some important information relative to the TCA Employee Handbook and some updates we're proposing in the handbook. The goal of today's presentation is to bring awareness of these proposed changes to the handbook, as well as to adopt and approve the changes in the TCA handbook, as well as expand the existing CEO authority that currently allows the CEO to make changes to the handbook related to new legal and regulatory changes, by also authorizing expanding the CEO authority to incorporate approved board policies and organizational changes, existing operational policies, as well as day-to-day operational activities that do not have a significant budgetary impact. So a little bit of introduction here from the history. The last time the TCA handbook was updated was in 2019. And since then, there's been several changes to the TCA operating environment that require us to formalize an update and into a new handbook. We propose changes relative to legal regulatory updates. And prior authority I mentioned earlier was granted to the CEO in 2008 to make legal and regulatory updates to the handbook without further board action. We're including these updates in today's presentation since we have other updates we want to provide to you from the presentation. The next category is non-legal, non-regulatory updates, which currently require board approval to make these changes. And I'll walk through several slides which give you some examples of what these non-legal, non-regulatory updates will be. And based on the nature of these changes we're proposing, we'd like to recommend that span the CEO authorization to include these types of updates without further board action. And I'll walk through the details of the examples in further slides. And also, any changes outside these new parameters we present today, such as significant policies and/or changes that have a significant budgetary impact, will be presented back to the board for further review and approval. All of you should have received in the board packets several documents. One is the proposed 2024 Employee Handbook clean version, the proposed 2024 Employee Handbook redline version, as well as a document that summarized all the proposed changes to the handbook, which specifically identified the category of the change, as well as the corresponding section in the handbook. And these are the high-level areas where we're going to talk about today relative to the revisions of the handbook we're proposing. First, I mentioned was the legal and regulatory revisions, which primarily are compliance with federal, state, and regulatory compliance areas such as Cal OSHA. The next section, we try to put into an understandable format for ease of understanding and clarity in presentation today. These are the non-legal regulatory revisions. And the first category is incorporate approved board policies and/or organizational changes. Number 2 is incorporate existing operational policy procedures into the TCA Employee Handbook. And number 3 is day-to-day operational activities that do not have a significant budgetary impact. While I provide certain examples of some of these changes, I will not be going over all the changes in the handbook in today's presentation. First, we'll start with the legal regulatory updates in the handbook. First, we need to comply with federal, state laws as well as regulatory updates in a timely manner. The first update in the handbook we provided is a discontinuation of mediation mandate for certain employment issues. Secondly, we call out the California SB 616, which is an increase in the paid minimum sick leave. We have a dedicated slide, and the next slide we'll talk about in detail. The next update is adding new definitions and rights and eligibility standards regarding certain leaves, such as FMLA, CFRA, military caregiver, and victims of crime. Next, there's been some expansion in some other areas of leaves, specifically in the organ and bone marrow donor, the bereavement leaves, as well as reproductive loss. And next, there's been an update in California law relative to employers are not allowed to discriminate against employees and applicants for off-duty marijuana use and/or prior use. And then last on this page, you added the OSHA requirement relative to allowing recovery time for physical exertion outside when working outside. So those are the updates to the legal regulatory sides of the handbook. Next slide I'll mention, we'll talk about the California paid sick leave in greater detail and how TCA will address. A little bit of history again. So prior to 2015, TCA utilized a comprehensive annual leave called CalTime, so a single bucket of time off for vacation and sick time in one bucket. Then fast forwarding to 2015, the state of California, under its Healthy Families, Healthy Act provisions, mandated that all employers provide a minimum of 3 paid sick days to all employees. Even though TCA was already compliant with that requirement under the Cal bucket we had previously, and no action was required by TCA, TCA decided to highlight this compliance by separating a new paid sick leave account for all employees and transferring a subset of the current Cal bucket of 27 hours into a paid sick leave bucket for every employee to be compliant and highlight the compliance. Over time, those 2 buckets of time off, and specifically the paid sick leave account, some employees understood that this was the only place they could take sick time was PSL, which was incorrect. And now with this introduction of SB 616, TCA has been able to maybe address that misperception and go to proposing a new update for our time off to 1 Cal bucket again. We're proposing to return to a single Cal structure, which would include vacation and sick time in 1 separate account. And then we would discontinue the separate paid sick leave account. We would take the 27 hours we had transferred back 2015 back into the single Cal structure. And in doing this, would provide employees 1 paid time off bucket for sick and vacation. And doing this action would be a net neutral cost to TCA. So next, I want to jump into the non-legal, non-regulatory updates and revisions to the handbook. And we put these in these 3 categories, hopefully for ease of understanding and ease of clarity. So the first category of the non-legal regulatory revisions to the handbook is called Incorporate Approved Board Policies and Organizational Changes. So for example here, we've memorialized a couple of things in the handbook since the last update. We've added the TCA's vision and mission and value statements to be consistent with the strategic plan. We've also updated the TCA city member listing. We've removed the city of San Clemente. The next category under the non-legal regulatory revisions updates is considered existing operational policies and procedures being inserted into the handbook. So these are already policies and procedures we have in place. We're simply putting them into the handbook for easier reference for employees. So some examples of these would be incorporating the requirement for the oath at the time of hire. We incorporated a standalone policy relative to defrauding TCA or its customers into the handbook. We make references to TCA's style guide relative to our branding and the location where employees can find more information about those topics. We've also added the location of TCA's travel, conference, and business expense policy into the handbook as another reference for employees to utilize. So next, I'll walk through some additional updates in this new category relative to day-to-day operational activities that do not have a significant budgetary impact. These are some language things we think that will help increase management oversight, flexibility, efficiency, and effectiveness, not just of management, but also of the entire organization. So some things that we've added and clarified are the following. The first thing is we've added a prohibition against providing maliciously false information during investigation. We've added some specific definitions regarding the requirements for the receipt of the discretionary performance incentive award, which is granted by the CEO. We've streamlined the HR review and recommendation process to the CEO for position reclassification requests, as well as temporary positions. We've also clarified the CEO's discretion on car allowance eligibility. And lastly, we've also proposed to eliminate the previous 90-day waiting period for employees to use Cal time off bucket. Continuing on with this theme, language that increases management oversight and flexibility and/or efficiency and effectiveness. We've expanded the conflict of interest policy to prohibit accepting gifts to any company that proposes business with TCA. Previously, it was only for government contracts. Next, we've inserted a policy on participation in social media platforms for all employees. And lastly, but certainly not least, we've added TCA's commitment to succession planning and our activities that we're going to take to make sure we have a strong succession plan for employees. So next is another theme relative to this non-legal, non-regulatory updates to the handbook, where we've added some important TCI items to the handbook. And these are just basically updates, but I want to make sure that we've added these in the handbook so they're in one collective spot for employees to reuse. We've updated office hours, the work week, overtime policy to reflect all work schedules. We're making sure that we added a policy relative to prohibiting solicitation activities for various causes at TCA. We've made some updates to the workforce rules and behaviors. We've also added some language to personal protective clothing and equipment, primarily some Cal OSHA regulations. And then lastly, we've updated the personal and TCA cellular telephone use policy. And then this is the last subsection of this third category of the non-legal and non-regulatory revisions to the handbook. This is primarily focused on minor text editing, which we feel improves clarity, intent, and understanding for employees as well. So we've made some updates and delineations to clearly define employee classifications, whether they're exempt, non-exempt, full-time, or part-time, and so on. We've clarified the requirements for standby pay and the eligibility requirements for that. Next, we revised in title only, the title of commitment to diversity to the title of commitment to equal opportunity. We did this for one purpose, because the paragraph below subsequently is a legal definition of equal opportunities. We want to make that flow better. Certainly doesn't change our commitment to diversity and doing the best things we can for our employees, but I want to make sure that we understand that it was only a title change and not a definition change in the paragraph. And then we also added some descriptors to put some parameters around approving of floating holidays and receipt of holiday pay at TCA. We've also condensed and modernized our dress code standards a bit. We've also added some language relative to access to the building and restricting access to certain former employees and visitors. And then last on this page, we've updated some language to reference the catch-up provisions for the 457 plan and 401 savings plan, referring employees to the plan administrator for information regarding those plans. So in conclusion, just to wrap up what I went through and in detail here, we have proposals in the handbook that include legal and regulatory changes, which have already been authorized by the CEO back in 2008 to make these changes without board action. We've also included non-legal, non-regulatory changes in these three main categories, which are highlighted here, and I'll repeat them again for knowledge and understanding. Incorporate board-approved policies and organizational changes into the handbook. Incorporate existing operational policies at TCA and procedures into the handbook. And then day-to-day operational changes that do not have a significant budgetary impact into the handbook. And we're requesting for the ease of future administration of these types of changes, the staff has recommended to expand the CEO authority to make updates to the handbook of this nature. And of course, if there's changes outside these parameters, such as significant policies and/or changes that make a significant budgetary impact, we would come back to the board for review and for approval. So at this time, the requests are the same for each board. The number one request is to adopt the 2024 TCA Employee Handbook. Number two is to expand the CEO authority that currently allows the CEO to make changes to the handbook relative to new legal and regulatory updates by also authorizing the CEO to incorporate approved board policies and organizational changes, existing operational policies, as well as day-to-day operational activities that do not have a significant budgetary impact. And that concludes my presentation, because the request is the same for both boards. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions? Director Schnell?
Very good. Thanks, Mark, appreciate it.
Thank you, Director.
Few questions. So you mentioned that the CEO can make changes that don't have a significant budgetary impact on operations. Do we have a limit or a cap? I mean, significant is just a very kind of vague amount, so are we going to put some type of financial cap or amount on what that definition is?
Good question. Thank you, Director Snell. We went through some examples here that hopefully highlight some of the changes that the CEO was proposing to make without board action. I understand that the CEO does have contract authority up to $25,000, which could be a starting point from that standpoint of his authorization to make monetary changes.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to see some type of, definition on what significant is. So again, I know you're going to be responsible, Ryan, but again, when it's not defined, it's just very difficult. I mean, what you think is significant and what we think significant might be different. So that's one change I'd recommend. Why did we decide to allow employees within the first 90 days to actually take leave?
Good question. Thank you, Director Snell. It's relative to recruiting and retention out there, relative to being able to attract good talent, and that there are opportunities to take time off whether they're sick or whether they have something pre-planned that they had planned prior to employment at TCA.
So is it based on the accrued time that they've earned during those 90 days, and that's the cap on what they can take, or they can take, the full, 5 days and 40 hours, or?
It could depend if there was something negotiated prior to that during the recruiting process. It could be more than what they've earned at that time.
It can be, okay. And then tying into that, the unused sick leave, was unused sick leave prior to this, was that paid out upon termination? Because now it's being combined in one CAL, correct?
So it does, unused sick time on an annual basis rolls into CAL at TCA, so it is paid out.
Right, but prior to that, the change that's being made, was that actually paid out if it was unused sick leave?
So yes.
It was, okay.
Yeah, because currently, the current
Okay.
process, even though there's 2 buckets of time off or 2 accounts, the unused sick time does get rolled into CAL every year.
Okay.
It rolls into the CAL bucket.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure. I mean, because, typically, unaccrued vacation is a 4% liability on the total cost of salaries. So if it was already set up to be that way beforehand, that both sick and vacation time were combined, then I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Director Schnell. Any other questions?
Mr. Director, on behalf of Foothill Eastern, I'd like to say thank you, Mr. Mannion. Fresh eyes on this is well welcomed, and so thank you for the time that you took into this. We went over this in a thing. I think that hiring incentives, giving the ability to have sick leave and vacation put on is kind of like a hiring incentive right now with a struggling market that we have out there. So we talked about it in the board. Great questions, Mr. Smell and Director Smell, and I'd like to move it on behalf of Foothill Eastern. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion for Foothill Eastern from Director Voits. Do we have a second? Second from Director Meeks. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, it is unanimous, and now we'll go over to San Joaquin Hills Board. Could I have a motion, please? Motion by Director Connors and a second by Director Hurt. I saw your hand go up there. Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, it's unanimous. Thank you, Mark, very much. Okay, we'll now go on to Mr. Valdez, Chief Toll Operations Officer, for item number 7.
All right, good morning, honorable directors. Vinny Valdez, Chief Toll Operations Officer. And this next item is an update on the topic of interoperability of tolling agencies. Significant progress is being made across the country towards the goal of tolling agencies becoming nationally interoperable. I'll update today on what this national movement means to us, the progress that's being made, some of the challenges that are involved in achieving national interoperability, and then go over what we see as next steps. At the end of this presentation, I'll ask the boards, both boards, for approval of this item. Okay. So, particularly for the benefit of our newer board members, let's start at the beginning with the question of, okay, what is interoperability? In the context of tolling, interoperability is when tolling agencies cooperate and exchange information such that the customers of each agency can use their transponder on the other agency's tolled facilities. So TCA customers, for instance, could use their transponders on other tolled facilities, such as the 91 Express lanes. And then customers of the other tolling agencies, for example, again, 91 Express lanes, can use their transponders on TCA facilities. In both cases, the tolls are billed to the customer's home account. Currently, in California, all tolling agencies within the state are interoperable with each other. And back in 2012, the Federal Transportation Authorization Bill, known as MAP 21, contained a provision that mandated that all tolling agencies in the United States become nationally interoperable. The goal of that mandate is so that a tolling customer, a single tolling customer, can use their transponder and home account and travel on tolled facilities seamlessly across the country. That being the goal, it was definitely at the time a complex undertaking, right? As there really wasn't a national tolling framework for agencies to do that. By that point in time, tolling agencies across the country had implemented from different transponder technology standards, for example, different business rules. So again, that lack of framework there presented a challenge. So to meet that challenge, a group of tolling agencies from across the nation, including TCA, formed a national interoperability working group under the auspices of IBTTA, and began working on this problem. Okay, so there's that mandate, right? But besides that, let's talk about why interoperability is important, right? It's important regardless. So why is interoperability important? It starts with the customer, right? The customer benefits from increased convenience when there is national interoperability. The customer gets seamless access to out-of-state tolled facilities that are out of state, okay? And this, in addition to enhancing mobility, right, also contains the convenience of tolls being billed to the customer's TCA account. Okay, there's also benefits to tolling agencies, right? Tolling agencies that are interoperable can post tolls to other agencies' accounts, right? So let's say a visitor comes to visit California from out of state and uses our toll roads. Today, we have to look up their license plate and or read their license plate and identify who the registered owner is and go through that processing, right? Whereas if that customer or that visitor that uses our facilities has an account with another tolling agency, we can instead post tolls to that visitor's home account back in their home state, right? That lowers our processing costs. It promotes increased road usage in that if it is seamless for an out-of-state visitor to use our facilities and without having to do anything more, have the tolls billed to their home account, they're more likely to use our toll facilities. There's also a marketing benefit, right, in that we get to say, you can take your toll road's transponder with you on the road, right, and promote the additional convenience that offers, that ability would offer our customers. So with all those benefits, the goal of achieving interoperability is a part of our strategic plan and a part of our state and federal legislative platforms. All right, so let's talk about status now. Where is everything with regards to national interoperability? The National Interoperability Working Group that I mentioned before meets about once a month, and TCA has been very active and, in fact, a leading voice in the efforts of this group. For purposes of implementing national interoperability, the country is divided up into 4 geographic regions that we see on the slide there. The Northeast, the Central, the Southeast, and then us, we out here in the West. In terms of progress, the first 2 regions to establish regional processing hubs, these are processing gateways to which agencies in that region connect up. The regional processing hub serves as a gateway to process transactions outside the region and with other regions. Central and Southeast regions were the first to set up their respective regional processing hubs, and in fact connected their regional hubs, thereby becoming interoperable last year. The Northeast region, seen there in purple, otherwise or also known as EasyPass, they've this past year established their regional hub for interoperability, but have more work to do on their side and anticipate starting the process of becoming nationally interoperable next year. Then for we out here in the West, we're behind. We've become behind in our efforts, and I'll get into some of the reasons why on the next slide. But our current status today is that there is no interoperability within the Western region, seen on the slide in green, outside of California. Tolling agencies within California are currently interoperable with each other inside the state, but outside the state, there is currently no interoperability established yet. The Western region tolling agencies are currently developing options for implementing the Western region hub. And we, TCA, in the past have informally messaged our willingness to serve as the hub. That makes sense for us since within California, we see the largest share, we believe, of out-of-state traffic on our facilities. So it makes sense for us to serve in that capacity and maintain a leadership profile when it comes to matters of national interoperability. Okay, so what are some of the challenges? The main impediment to implementing national interoperability, particularly here in California, has been our enabling legislation. Streets and Highways Code Section 27565E, 27565 was amended in 2014 to include or add subsection E, and that amendment authorized California tolling agencies to participate in national interoperability. That enabling legislation referenced the MAP 21 mandate and authorized California agencies, again, to participate in national interoperability. Where the issue comes in is that that enabling legislation then goes on to restrict the data that California toll agencies can provide to out-of-state agencies regarding a vehicle's use on our facilities to the 4 data elements we see on the top right of the slide. So again, if a out-of-state visitor comes and utilizes our toll facility, and we want to bill that toll to that driver's home, that visitor's home account, all I can tell their home account are those 4 things: license plate number, transponder ID, date and time of the transaction, and our identity, right? Toll facility operator. The issue specifically is that is not enough information for that visitor's home agency to properly post that toll to the visitor's home account, right? We would also need to be able to provide at a minimum, the information on the bottom right side of the slide, right? Let's start with toll amount. So, if I can't tell a remote agency how much to bill that customer, that's obviously not going to work there. Okay, so in order to, so with that restriction, in order for TCA and other tolling agencies in California to be able to fully participate in national interoperability outside the state, we need a technical fix to that legislation. So, you would think that, that seems pretty straightforward. It's a technical fix. Let's go ahead and do it. But no, there have been barriers to getting that done. We're advised through the CTOC Legislative Committee, right, based on their conversations with staffers up in Sacramento, that there's currently a legislative sentiment against regarding the sharing of personal information out of state. So that would be a headwind if we tried to pursue that now. There's a class action litigation still pending resolution for one of our agencies here in California, and that agency would prefer, has indicated a preference to wait until their litigation is involved, because their litigation involves interpretation of 27565. And then, what we're seeing is that the issue of national interoperability is a lower priority for other multimodal transportation agencies in the state right now. So, other priorities. With that, the CTOC Legislative Committee in December decided to recommend against trying to pursue a fix during the 2024 legislative session, and with that, the timetable for when this legislation could be fixed so that we can fully participate in national interoperability is unknown. The timetable is unknown. At the earliest, it could be next year. So with no clear timetable on when that legislation could be fixed, and given the benefits to customers that I spoke about on the earlier slide, staff has developed a way to continue making progress incrementally under current legislation. We have had discussions with Washington State DOT, known as WashDOT, and North Texas Tolling Authority, acronym NTTA, about implementing a concept, a limited implementation of interoperability under California's current legislation that would allow us to continue making progress. In talking through this concept with them, the concept became known as one-way interoperability. And the way it works is diagrammed on the slide here. So under this limited implementation of interoperability, under the one-way interoperability concept, TCA customers, I'll use WashDOT as the example, TCA customers could drive outside of our state up into Washington, use one of their tolled facilities like their State Route 520, and have in the Seattle area, and have their tolls billed to their home Fast Track account. Okay, sounds good so far. Where the limitation would come in is that it would not work in the opposite direction. Okay, WashDOT customers would not be able to use our facilities and have our tolls billed to their home account. Why not? Again, that's because I wouldn't be able to give WashDOT all of the information that's needed to post that transaction to their customer's home account. Okay? So because it wouldn't work in the opposite direction, WashDOT to TCA, that's why it's called the one-way interoperability concept. Last point on this is, under this one-way interoperability concept, right, where, our customer benefits from the additional convenience of being able to use WashDOT's facility and have the tolls billed to their home account, right, until it's fully interoperable, we TCA we do not benefit from being able to post our tolls to their accounts, right? We don't get that benefit. So what we've proposed to both WashDOT and NTTA during informal discussions is that we would propose charging a 3% per transaction fee to recover our costs, right, to implement this concept with them. And both have indicated an inclination to accept that fee. And then that fee will help us recover our costs. So before we leave this slide, right, I just want to reiterate the takeaways here, right? The takeaways are that this is doable under current legislation. It keeps our efforts to implement national interoperability moving, while our legislation, we work with other tolling agencies here in California on getting our legislation fixed. And it allows us to meet our strategic plan objective of increasing convenience for our customers, and we recover our costs over time for implementing this through the charging of a fee to WashDOT and to NTTA.
Mr. Valdez, before we move on, we have a question from Vice Chair Penaloza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Valdez, for the presentation so far. The question I had with your with the one-way concept, if I were to travel to Washington and rent a car, and I know that when you rent a car, the rental agency usually tries to offer you a one day payment to use the tolls. They'll say, pay us $15 a day and you could use our tolls. If I were to add that rental car to my toll road app instead of paying the car rental agency and then just not have them activate their transponder, does that work?
What you're
Would under this concept, would I be able to now use the rental car in Washington, but have it billed to my toll roads account?
Short answer, yes. Yes.
So it won't notify the rental agency and say through the license plate, hey, this, because I'm just trying to understand when you drive under the reader, does it just pick up whoever has that license plate registered under a toll?
Sure, I think I follow your
Count.
question. Let me start with that if you were today, let's say hypothetically, right, you went up to Sacramento and to Seattle and rented a car and brought it down here, right, or wherever. You could rent the car here as well, right? But what you can do today is take that license plate for that rental vehicle, right, and add it to your account temporarily. And that would allow you to use our toll roads, right, and have that toll billed to your account as opposed to the rental company who would charge you for it.
Okay.
Okay, so you can do that today. Once we are interoperable, right, with WashDOT, then you could take that same vehicle, that same plate, add it to your account here, and do what you described, right, which is to drive on a Washington state facility and have that Washington toll billed to your TCA account. Yes.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question from Director Voights.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. Obviously, a great presentation. You always hit it out of the park, and so it just kind of highlights the lack of thought and that California doesn't send its best and brightest to Sacramento, because the fact is that, we're trying to work this in nationally. Excuse me, Orange County has sent some bright people up to Sacramento. But the fact is that the lack of forethought and concern for convenience or the concern for the taxpayer doesn't come from Sacramento. So the fact is, TCA needs to be a leader here in the state of California. So thank you for all the directors here that serve and bring some intelligence to the state. I mean, we're actually leaders in many categories, whether we wildlife fencing or the sticker program that we're doing. I think that we can still fight for this. But the fact that in the state of California, RTC, they are able to use ours, and then if we go to Sacramento, we're able to use our transponder. Do they not get how much it costs them to the toll or the lane or the information we need comes interstate, right?
Yes.
So what's the stumbling block to do it with Texas or Florida or Colorado? Why, if we're already exchanging information in that format? Right. So you're saying that all these things that need to be the lane, if it gets challenged, you need the lane, the time, how much. Obviously, you're going to bill how much. These are things that need to be on the bill that we see that we're able to exchange with the partnering agency. So why is it the problem that if we're doing it with California, why aren't we able to do it with Texas or Florida and all the others?
Because the way Streets and Highways Code, Director Voight's 27565E is worded, we're allowed to exchange all of that information currently with other tolling agencies within California, right? But the legislation, if I can use the word defective, is defective in that.
You're right when you say Sacramento is defective. I would agree with you.
I didn't say that.
I would agree with you. I will say that.
But that's it. The current, put more succinctly, the current legislation allows us to exchange the information we need with tolling agencies within the state, but places that restriction for tolling agencies outside the state.
Yeah. So is it the California allowing, I mean, is it that the other agencies not allowing the information to come to us? Or is it California's not allowing it to go to them?
We're not allowing the necessary information to go out.
Well, it won't be long before California licenses aren't even used in other states because we're not allowed to exchange information. But
Let's
thank
let
you.
Mr. Valdez finish his presentation. Director Voights, thank you.
Appreciate the passion, though, thank you.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. We're trying to hook up with the rest of the nation and make this more convenient for our users and out-of-state users in California. So it actually is a big benefit. So it's really a stumbling block. I imagine it will take a little longer. They will catch on eventually. Thank you. Keep up the good work.
Absolutely. So thank you again. And the takeaways, again, this keeps us moving. It allows us to meet our strategic plan objective of increasing customer convenience, and it allows, incorporates a recovery of costs over time through the charging of a fee. Okay, so in terms of continuing to move our implementation of national interoperability forward, we see this, staff sees this as being the path. We want to continue our active participation and leadership in the National Interoperability Working Group. We want to proceed to take the incremental step of implementing one-way interoperability with WashDOT and with NTTA, since that's where we see a lot of out-of-state traffic coming from. We want to continue working with the Western Region toll operators on identifying regional hub alternatives, promoting, taking action to promote TCA as a potential solution. Meanwhile, continue working with other California CTOC agencies towards a legislative fix that would permit the sharing of sufficient information to become fully interoperable outside the state. And then once our legislation is fixed, proceed to fully implement national interoperability and serve as the regional hub. Okay, so this item was presented to the Joint Toll Operations Committee on February 28th and was unanimously approved. The recommendation to both boards is the same. The recommendation to San Joaquin Hills is in front of us. And the recommendation is, number one, to direct staff to pursue implementation of the one-way interoperability concept and return to the board with draft agreements for approval. And then number two, direct staff to take formal action to position TCA to be the Western Region hub for full interoperability, and if successful, return to the board with any necessary agreements for approval.
Okay, we have a question, request to speak from Director Connors. Yeah, it's right here. And we also have one from Director Wagner. So we'll take Director Connors first.
Thank you. My question is, as long as state legislation prevents us from pursuing interoperability with other states in the Western region, doesn't that kind of impact our ability to serve as the Western Region hub?
Right. That would be a prerequisite to implementing full interoperability, would be to get the state legislation fixed, and then after that point, implement the hub, Western Region hub, and then with that become fully interoperable outside the state.
It just seems that if TCA is the Western Region hub, that's a good thing. That's it's good for our back office, and it's good for our status among all the other tolling agencies. But it seems like some other organization could easily, well, maybe no other California organization, but one of the other states could easily jump ahead and say, well, we're ready to be the hub right now, and we're ready to move forward on that. And you guys in California, you can come along whenever you're ready for it.
That's exactly what's happening, right? Is that the other three geographic regions, right, are making more steady progress towards becoming interoperable with each other, and then it's yep. When the West, when you're ready, come join us.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And Director Wagner.
Well, right, I'll agree, that was going to be my question. Look, this agency has been burned before on this data question. Burned to the tune of multiple millions of dollars. I think we'd just be playing with fire trying to do the hub. I can't imagine how we can be a hub, how we can even make a pitch to be the hub if we're in California where there is no appetite out of Sacramento to fix this problem. Been there for a long time. It's caused enormous damage. And the legislators in Sacramento, regardless of what you think of them, Director Voights or others, and you're not entirely wrong, aren't going to fix this. So I can't imagine why we would waste our time trying to pretend that we could function as the Western Region hub. And if we pass on this opportunity, at least for now, maybe that gets the attention of Sacramento. I'm all in favor of item 1. I wish it were bilateral. All in favor of item 1. Item 2 just seems to me a fool's errand.
If I may respond to that, right, it would not make sense to proceed to implement the Western Region hub, and that is not what we're proposing to do here until that legislation is fixed and we've got coverage there. So what number 2 is actually saying, or the intention there, is that we position ourselves to be the hub, right? Such that.
What does position ourselves mean if we're hamstrung in what we can do? We are going to have these talks with people with no, we're going to spend staff time and money and energy and maybe get people's hopes up with no realistic end game in sight. I don't even know what it means to position TCA to do this.
To promote ourselves as being the best alternative for being a hub once the legislation is approved and we have that legislative coverage there.
Chair,
Yes.
if I
Senator
may,
Chamberlain.
if I may, I understand the concern would be if the legislature doesn't act to fix the problem, we're hamstrung with implementing full national interoperability. Clear as day, understand that point. I don't know that I'm willing to give up hope that the legislature won't fix this problem. We are already sharing that data. We are already sharing that data internally with other toll operators here in California. It's an issue with sharing it over state line. So I know that we're talking with CTOC and other toll operators. They all are supportive of a potential fix going forward. It hasn't moved forward this last year because of some other agencies still working through a class action case currently. When we have a coalition to support behind it, I don't think that this is something I would say will never get fixed. I may be the minority opinion, and I know hope isn't a great strategy, but with a coalition behind it and a requirement on the national side to be interoperable, I think we should put a good step forward, and I think we should be out there in front of other toll operators nationally saying, when we're able to, TCA is ready. We put this recommendation before you today because we informally have said we're equipped to do it, we could do it, we are the biggest California toll operator. California has, I believe, the most tolls and toll facilities in the Western region. So it made sense for us to lean into this, from my opinion. If one-way interoperability does work and proves successful, our customers are benefiting already. That's recommendation 1. But I do feel like this is something where we wanted to get the authority from the board where we can more formally tell our Western regional counterparts that we are willing to lean into this, to continue to explore it. But the full caveat being, without a legislative fix, we will unable to be the Reston Regional Hub. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I have now a question from Director Schnell.
Great, thank you for the presentation. So 2 questions, one to the CEO. So as far as positioning ourselves to be the Western Regional Hub, do we have any idea how much money, time, energy, effort is going to take to actually do that work to position us to be that hub?
Yeah, so I'll ask Vinny to add on to this if there's more information needed, but right now it's really messaging, it's the partnering, it's setting ourselves up. It's not the implementation
Right.
portion of it.
So it's not a heavy lift, it's not a big financial impact?
It is not.
Okay. And then the other question I had around costs is, if we move forward with one-way interoperability, which I think is great, can that work and effort and money that we spend to do that, is it going to be repurposed and leveraged if we eventually go to two-way interoperability? So it's not wasted money. It's not like we're going through one process for one way and that work is then just kind of chucked aside and we have to do a whole nother process to do the two-way interoperability.
Short answer is that the effort would not be thrown away in moving from one way to full interoperability. It's an incremental step in that
okay.
direction.
Okay, I assume that was the answer. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, thanks.
I have a question from Chair Heft, and then we'll move on to the next 2 people. She actually nudged me here.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I've been thinking about this as well, and while I agree it's a nice concept that we would be out there in front, I don't necessarily think it's practical right here in the state of California. I completely concur with Director Wagner. I really don't have a lot of faith in our state legislators to turn this around, because I think they're part of the problem. And I'm wondering how much time and expense would staff be going to start to move forward to implementing something like this, because we obviously have a lot of other things to deal with. Staff time is precious. We need to make sure that we're spending the lion's share of our time on things that are going to move the needle forward. And I don't necessarily think that this is something that is, I don't think the right timing is there right now.
So thanks for the question, Chair Heft. On the first recommendation there, we're talking about a dollar cost of about $20,000 per agency and a combined staff effort of, I'll ballpark it at a man-month for both agencies to implement both of them for purposes of one-way interoperability. Okay, and then with that, again, with that modest investment, the cost of which will be recovered, we anticipate recovering, our customers get the benefits of that.
But it only goes one way, like you said. So do we have any idea of when that full implementation could be possible? Or are we just kind of trying to take baby steps? I mean, as you said.
It's incremental steps, but again, though those incremental steps, right, yield benefits for our customers, right, which is what I'm after here, is that benefit for our customers. To your question, yes, in order we can implement one way, right, from us to WSDOT under current legislation, but in order to go from WSDOT back to us and sort of make it full, there is that dependency on fixing state legislation, yes.
And I guess I would ask our CEO if you have a couple more thoughts on this. It just seems like we're involved in so many big things that take up a lot of time. Does this make sense considering the current makeup of the legislature, that they just seem to be very anti being able to open something like this up opportunity-wise for us to go beyond this very, very small step?
So beyond what I've already said about, I'm I'm in a position where I'm not willing to give up hope that the legislature may fix this problem. There are enough toll operators out there, if momentum gets behind it, that there may be a bigger why to lean in from their end and fix it. As far as the incremental costs go, one-way interoperability, in our staff's opinion, and we're recommending to you, is that this makes sense from a cost perspective, and it also makes sense from a customer service perspective. This will be a benefit to our customers. It will reduce time that they have to do when they're using a different toll in a different state to do one-time toll or to pay it directly or have some sort of penalty or violation letter sent to them. So we support the first recommendation for that reason. The second, I think we're already spending significant amount of time working with the National Interoperability Coalition to talk about the technical side and how this could be implemented, the federal requirements, how different regions can communicate with others. We are already part of that discussion, and even if we didn't position ourselves or message that we want to be the Western Regional Hub, we would still be participating in those discussions regardless. I think it's very, very small additional effort from staff to message that we're here and willing to act as the Western Regional Hub if we have legislation that allows us to do that. It's not a very heavy lift for us for that back end to position ourselves that way.
What kind of data do we have in terms of the types of trips that our drivers are taking up and into those areas? I mean, is it significant?
Yeah, so I'll defer to Vinny. I can tell you I was surprised to see the numbers of our customers using toll facilities in Texas, but Vinny can go into more detail.
Yeah, I don't have hard numbers at my fingertips. I can definitely follow up with the data that we have.
Ballpark is fine.
Ballpark. We, during a 3-month period, observation period, Texas, NTTA, the Texas tolling agency that we're talking to, saw ballpark at 30, I'll ballpark it at 30,000 distinct toll transactions involving our customers. And
What time period was that?
it was September to November.
Okay, so 2 months' time.
3 months, September, October, November.
And
Yes,
November,
3
okay.
months. And they saw somewhere between 30 and 45,000 transactions. So we looked at those, right? We as part of our analysis, we looked at those. We asked NTTA, which doesn't have the same restriction we have, to send us over the transponders and the transactions and the license plates that they read, so that we can trace those back to home accounts to see, okay, who is this population of 45,000, right? Are these closed accounts? Are these people that moved to Texas and didn't take the transponders out of their cars or close their accounts? Or are these big fleets? You know, who are these? And what we saw that was encouraging was that, yes, we did see some fleets in national fleet vehicles in there. And yes, we did see a few closed accounts, but the majority of the transactions that they read were associated with active accounts on our system. So that suggests, it doesn't say, but it suggests to us that, okay, these may be people from here visiting Texas, right, visiting Dallas in particular. These may be college students away at college. And that anyway, looking at that population and breaking it down like that, made us more confident that, yes, there would be a customer benefit in doing this.
All right, thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Now we'll go to Director Huang.
I think this is a question for our CEO, Chamberlain. With Caltrans moving toward more and more toll roads, and so they'll be using more of these transponders, do you think that Caltrans could be counted upon as a partner to help push the legislature into correcting some of these, doing these data fix. We've been talking about this privacy data issue for quite a bit of time. So I'm just wondering, with Caltrans being involved, would that help assist in pushing the legislature toward a more positive direction?
I can't speak on behalf of Caltrans. Our Director Zhao may want to chime in on this. I will tell you that TCA and CTOC likely will appreciate state involvement. They are already a member of CTOC. They are already participating in national interoperability discussions out of their headquarters office.
Yes.
Very active and working to improve interoperationality within the state, and we use the same transponder for entire system. But I'm not aware of the involvement for across the state borderline. So I think I got lots of information from today's meeting, and then we'll follow up with headquarters and operations. Yeah. So.
Thank you. Are you good? Yep, okay. We'll go to Director Voits.
Yeah, Vinny, thank you. Interoperability is a movement nationally.
Sure.
So
Yes.
California is just lagging in exchanging data that we need to get out. The 3% that was on your earlier slide, is that to our agency per out-of-state license transaction, or is that for when our transponders go out of state? There was a 3% on the slide earlier.
Right. That fee would be paid, as diagrammed on the slide there, by WashDOT to TCA for each transaction that they bill to our customer's home account.
Director Wagner had a lot more experience in Sacramento than I have had, but the fact is, I've got hope that they're going to get on, because the fact is, they may be slow to move or may not be what some of us think are the brightest, but the fact is, I think that with the national movement here, are the rest of the agencies in California also lobbying California to move in this direction? Are they all moving forward, this baby steps forward to do one way? Are we the leader in that idea?
With specific regard to the one-way interoperability concept, we're the leader in that concept.
So nobody else in the state of California is saying that we will do one way to where our users can use tolls in Texas, and we will let that be on our account?
In vetting this concept with many people inside and outside the state of California before presenting it here today, I have had conversations with one or two other agencies here in California about this concept, and left those conversations with the feeling that if we, once we push ahead with this concept and implement, that yes, other agencies are likely to follow.
I'm good with the moving forward and baby steps in. The fact that if we're on deck, I mean, I don't want to go into the batting circle and be up for bat. I'd like to be on deck, but the fact is to put our name out there as a leader and saying that we're ready to be the hub on the Western. I think that I think that eventually that will pay off for us, because I do believe that we are trendsetters, and I think that even the idea that we're the first agency in California that's moving this forward this one way, I'm good with that. I just nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have Vice Chair Kelly, then Director Connors, then Director Wagner.
Thank you. Question and then a comment. Back to the 3%. Does WashDOT pass that cost along to the customer, or do they absorb it? The 3%.
Their inclination is, it's our customer, so we would charge it to WashDOT, and no, they would not bake it or reflect it in their total amount.
Okay.
So they, as an agency, would pay that fee, the agency. And again, the reason why it makes sense for them to pay it is because they, as the agency, are getting the benefit of being able to post their toll to our customer's home account, right? Whereas that's not the case in the opposite direction. I don't get that benefit, which is why it's agreeable that we would charge a fee to WashDOT, who's getting the benefit, and so that we could recover our cost for them getting that benefit.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't clear as to whether they would be passing it along to the customer. They'll be eating it because they get a benefit. Okay. And then I understand the concerns that were raised about action item number 2, having TCA in a position to assume the Western Region Hub. But I like keeping that in there because I think it's important that we are teed up and ready to go, and I think we are the leader, and I don't want to give that position up.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Director Wagner and then Director Chafee.
Yeah, just a real quick, as I think we're winding this down, I would ask the chair to bifurcate the question so we can vote yes on one and no on the other if we are so inclined.
We can do that. Director Chafee.
Yes, thank you. I actually support both. There's a lot of frustration expressed. That to me means we just need to try harder. The thing that I think we need to keep in mind is our customers. And this will be of great benefit to our customers, and yes, it'll take some time and effort to get there. I also see it a good idea to pass both because it reaffirms TCA as the leading toll agency in California, and I feel if we back away from this, then we lose that spotlight on us where we have the ability to create the coalition, lead it, and move forward. And I don't want to see us taking a back seat on any of this. I also see an opportunity to expand the coalition. Because I think if you just stay with the other transportation agencies, that's not strong enough. So I'd hope to add this kind of thing to our county legislative priorities. After all, they're our constituents, our TCA people who live in this county, and we need to take care of them. This is a benefit to countywide. So I would like to expand the ability to pressure, or whatever the right word is, the legislature. This is, to me, is a no-brainer. You just need to wake up there, and I think we can do that, and a lot of them are being termed out, so you're going to get a fresh wave. I also think this is a business thing for California. We have deficits, not this year, but probably for several years ahead. This may help us expand business opportunities throughout the state if we can get this thing done. This may be a good time where the legislature wakes up, hey, we need to do some good things here to make that a better deal. And I think if we take this action, it's a reason to act up there. If we do nothing, they have no reason to do anything. So I support both of those recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Beal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo what Director Chafee just said. I fully agree with him. I want to remind all the directors this proposal was fully vetted through the Joint Toll Operations Committee, and it was approved unanimously in that committee after lengthy discussion. Orange County has a proud record of not waiting for Sacramento, looking for unique and creative opportunities to implement self-help. I'd put Measure M as an example of that. We didn't feel we were getting a fair shake tax-wise from the state. We took it upon ourselves to pass Measure M to take care of our roadways. And that was incremental process being made. So with respect to the first action item, that one-way interoperability concept would provide benefits to the TCA as well as to the TCA's customers today. And with respect to action item number 2, that would provide benefits to the TCA and its customers tomorrow, if and when that legislation is fixed. And as we already had confirmed by our staff today, there's no significant time, energy, or TCA resources that would be expended at this time, unless and until that legislation is fixed. So I don't see any reason to hesitate, and I fully support both action items.
Thank you. And Director Voights?
Yeah, Vinny, thanks again. Sorry, but so when an out-of-state license come to California, it's costing us time and money and resources trying to get that toll paid. Because if they come in with a transponder from Texas, obviously they probably assume that it's going to be used here. They're not used to paying tolls, and we don't have toll operations anymore. So the fact is that we'd have to send them a bill, correct?
If they did not go on to our, if they came from out of state and did not pay using our one-time toll feature for using our facilities, then yes, we'd have to go run their, process their license plate, look up the name and address of who owns the vehicle, print and mail a violation notice. And, there's costs associated, obviously, with doing that. So, one of the benefits to the agency is, okay, if we can post to that, home account, we don't have to do all that. We read the transponder or we read the plate, we look it up on our own system and say, oh, okay, we post that to this person's account in Texas. And that's a lot cheaper than printing and mailing a violation notice. And a lot more customer-friendly, too, I might add.
So to the CEO, do we believe that TCA needs to be in a position on deck? Or do you already think that the state of California, other agencies would already assume that we would be taking that role as the hub?
So my understanding in my discussions with Vinny and others that have been in the interoperability discussion is others already assume that we would be a viable candidate for the Western Regional Hub. We're here before you today because, quite frankly, I didn't want to get ahead of the board and say, yes, we want to go there and we can, without all of you having the opportunity to hear why and to give me that direction and staff direction that we can position to be the Western Regional Hub. So my answer is yes, the assumption's probably there, but we haven't said, yes, our board supports us moving in that direction.
For item number 2, is there any cost onto that to be saying that we're on set, or is it just a statement that you guys are putting out?
As I said prior, it's nominal, if any. We're already in the discussions on national interoperability, and it's just echoing that we have board support and that TCA is ready and willing, or it could be ready and willing, when the legislation gets fixed for us to be the Western Regional Hub.
So, one way interactive effect is it benefits our drivers to be able to go in other states, and so that's a good thing for us as we drive to Texas or Washington or Oregon. So I have nothing further. Thank you.
Okay, Director Khan.
Thank you. I just had a question. Are we bifurcating the recommendations?
I'll do that as a request. Do we need a motion or anything for that, to bifurcate the questions? No, just discretion. Yeah, we'll bifurcate the questions.
Okay, then I will move recommendation 1 for both agencies.
Second.
Okay, any other questions before? I have a motion from Director Khan for both agencies for item number 1. And we'll start with, and we have a second from
Sam,
Director Otto?
Right, Sam McKean, so we would need a second from Foothill Eastern before.
And we have a second from Vice Chair Penaloza for Foothill. And that'll be for item number 1. Let's see if we can just do this. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's unanimous. And now we'll go on to item number 2. Why don't we just start with San Joaquin Hills, and then we'll move on to Foothill. So for item number 2, for San Joaquin Hills, do I have a motion? And
I will move it. I'll second.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Kelly and a second from Director Khan for the San Joaquin Hills. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? No. We have 1 no, and the rest ayes from Director Wagner. Okay, now for Foothill. I need a motion and a second. for
Chafee
item
moves.
number 2.
I'll second.
Director Chafee moves the item for item number 2, and Director Khan seconds it. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? No. We have one no, the remainder are ayes, so that passes as well. Thank you very much for your extensive report, and we've learned a lot about interoperability today. Thank you.
Thank you, directors. Appreciate it.
Okay, this brings us to our last item, number 8, the Live Oak Grazing Pilot Program, and this will be presented by Dr. Doug Ferramenga. Hello, Doug. How are you?
Good, good, good. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And good morning, directors. I'm Doug Ferramenga, your environmental planning manager. This item is a report on the 3-year pilot grazing program at the Foothill Eastern Live Oak Conservation area that was approved by the board in 2020. The program was conducted between February 2021 and December 2023. It has shown some positive results, and staff is recommending that the board adopt targeted grazing as part of TCA's integrated weed management program. This item was presented to the Joint Environmental Committee at its February 28 meeting, and the committee unanimously recommended that this item be brought to the board for consideration. By way of a quick introduction, the Live Oak Plaza is located in Trabuco Canyon. It's 23 acres across from Cook's Corner, which is at the intersection of Live Oak Canyon Road and Santiago Canyon Road. It was purchased by the Foothill Eastern Agency in 2005 as early mitigation in anticipation of future capital improvement projects. This site was zoned for mixed development, consisting of light commercial and residential. And when the agency purchased the property, it was rezoned to preserved open space. This site provides a critical wildlife corridor link to Cleveland National Forest to the north. In this slide, the north is up. So Cleveland National Forest to the north, O'Neill Regional Park to the east, Whiting Ranch to the west, and Aliso Creek Corridor to the south. Prior to the commencement of the pilot grazing program, the site was overrun by a thick cover of non-natives, dominated by the black mustard that you see in this slide. The dense growth of these highly flammable non-natives, generally described as light or flashy fuels, can lead to hazardous wildlife conditions. In addition, non-natives outcompete and can overtake the native species, leading to habitat degradation and an overall reduction in of available native habitat, which support the various bird and wildlife species that we work so hard to protect. The 2020 feasibility study that was approved by the board also in 2020 explored the idea of utilizing targeted grazing as a possible habitat management strategy at Live Oak. The main goal was to reduce the accumulated dry matter, or the flashy fuels, on the site in order to reduce the risk of wildfire and also to comply with the county's fuel management goals in areas adjacent to habitable structures. In addition, we wanted to encourage native vegetation on this site. We wanted to retain the site's hydrological function, increase the site use by wildlife, and promote the recovery of coast live oak woodland saplings if we had any. The feasibility study explored 4 different types of grazing animals: cattle, horses, goats, and sheep. Of these, cattle and horses are true grazers, focusing on grasses and herbaceous plant material. Goats are browsers, focusing on shrubs and forbs, while sheep are intermediate with little preference between grasses, forbs, and shrubs. Cattle was the recommended choice for this site because of their selective grazing nature. Unlike the uncontrolled grazing that occurred on this site until 2008, this pilot program was a focused, science-driven program that was implemented in intense, short-duration cattle grazing events 1 to 3 times per year. Monitoring was conducted, and we had reports throughout the program to document the findings. We were lucky to partner with Five Bar Beef, owned by Mr. Frank Fitzpatrick, pictured in the black hat in this slide. He's an experienced cattle grazer who utilizes grazing for habitat and land reestablishment. He uses the Bazona breed of bulls pictured in the lower picture here. We utilized our on-call biological consultant, LandIQ, to conduct the baseline biological surveys, monitor the site prior, during, and after the grazing events, and documented the findings. The next few slides show you the before and after the grazing event. Here on the left, you see wheat thatch dominating the site prior to the grazing, and to the right, herbs coming up. That is doveweed that you see in the gray-green color. So that's a native that's starting to come up after the grazing. Here on the left, you see untreated non-native litter and covering the site. And to the right, after 3 years of targeted grazing, you see the ground being opened up, which allows the natives to come up. You can see some doveweed again in that picture. So we also have the decreased litter, which would choke out the natives. Both these photos are showing some of the natives that we have seen on site. So in addition to the doveweed and ragweed that you see in the left picture, the ragweed is the taller, darker green color. We have also seen horseweed, telegraph weed, fiddlenecks, and during the spring and winter months, we have seen some red maize. The photo on the right, if you look in the middle, that yellow, the dreaded yellow, that's still mustard. So even though we have come a long way, we still have some mustard and we still have some ways to go, which is why staff is requesting that the board direct staff to continue the grazing program at Live Oak in order for us to continue to ride the positive momentum that we have at this moment and be on our way to achieve the goals and objectives that we set in the feasibility study. This is an overall impression of how the site is looking today. So we took these pictures a couple of weeks ago. On the left, in the far background, you see healthy coastal sage scrub. In the middle ground, you see mature oak and some saplings. And if you look closely in the foreground, that is cacti that's coming up. The photo to the right is from the riparian area, which we also are working hard to protect. This is basically our report card. The goals that we set are in the left column, the grade in the middle, and the future recommendations by the biologists are in the right column. We have reduced the flashy fuels associated with the fire risk. We have seen native vegetation coming in. We have retained the hydrological function of the site with no erosion observed, especially in the riparian area. The fourth goal was to increase the site use by sensitive grassland bird species and wildlife. We have not seen any change yet. So the before and after grazing conditions, the number of wildlife species using the site has remained the same. So since our goal was to increase that, we think it will happen over time once the natives start to dominate the site. But right now it's still a no. And then the last goal was a precautionary goal where we aimed to protect any oak saplings that may be coming out. So we love oaks, but it takes a long time for them to produce saplings and for those to mature. So we wanted to make sure that if we had any saplings, we would protect those. We didn't get any saplings come up during this 3-year period, and so we didn't need to do that. The recommended goals for the Foothill Eastern Agency are presented in this slide. Staff is recommending that the board adopt targeted grazing as part of TCA's adaptive weed management program at its mitigation sites. Authorize the CEO to continue implementing and evaluating the grazing program and install a diverse native seed mix to complement the ongoing adaptive land management program at Live Oak Plaza, and is recommended in the Live Oak Pilot Grazing Program report. And finally, find that under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, the adoption of the recommendations of the Live Oak Pilot Grazing Program report is exempt from the requirements of CEQA and the agency's environmental review guidelines under sections 15301, 15304, and 15061 of the CEQA guidelines. That concludes my report, Mr. Chair, and we'll be happy to take any questions.
We have a question from Vice Chair Kelly, then Director Heft, and then Director Voights. Chair Heft.
Sure.
And now they're.
Thank you. First of all, I just really want to commend you for bringing this to our attention and recommending it in, I guess it was 2020?
Yes.
And what a unique and resourceful idea. And it's still, I think we all, speaking for everybody, I think we all love it. And I've watched the videos of the cows eating, and it just amazes me that they know which ones to eat and which ones not to eat. So discriminating cattle. And it's win-win. It truly is a win-win situation. So I think it was, I just want to recognize that I think the idea came from you, Dr. Faraminga, back.
Well, credit was actually to former Mayor of Irvine,
Christina
Shea, when she was chair of our Joint Environmental Committee, and supported, by Director Voights and others.
But she was recommending goats.
Right, so seat of Irvine was doing goats and most of the
recommended
other
cattle.
cities.
Yes.
That is correct.
Anyway, great job moving it along and setting it all up, and it's been fulfilling to see the results come back as you give the updates. I just had one question. Is there with this recommended action to adopt the grazing program as TCA's adaptive weed management program at its mitigation sites, is there a timeline on this, or is it just subject to monitoring and evaluating?
So the latter. So we would add this as a tool in our land management toolbox. So when it's appropriate, and as we look on a site-by-site basis, if grazing is the best tool to use, then we would have the ability to do that.
Okay, great, thank you.
We have a question first from Chair Heft, and then we'll go on to the rest.
I want to concur with Vice Chair Kelly and just really commend staff, and especially you, Mr. Faraminga, because you just do an amazing job, and your diligence, in making sure that we're being good stewards the beautiful land that God has given us here in California, and especially in South Orange County, that we're really doing what we should. And I'd heard Director Chafee say in the last item that this, it was a no-brainer. Well, I would think the same thing applies here. This is a no-brainer. I think it's wonderful that we made a decision as a board to not build, and when we purchased it, and make sure that we're protecting all the wildlife and all the different types of plants. And, I think it's important to make sure that we're not building all over California and you have nothing left. I do have one question. This was a pilot program.
Yes.
Are we looking to make it more permanent now? I know we're monitoring and everything, but it seems like we've done our due diligence. We've gone through goats don't work, cattle work much better, which I love cows, everybody knows that. Do we, are we looking now to implement this as something that is a policy of the TCA?
Yes, so that's what we're trying to get at with that first recommendation. So
Okay.
we would add targeted grazing as a permanent tool.
That's
in
what
the-
I
in the
understood, because like I said, I know
Yes.
we've gone through all the testing phases, and I think this is wisdom for us, so I concur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Heft. We'll go to Director Voights.
Yeah, thank you, Doug. This has been such a success, and we don't even talk about some of the attributes of this. The soil in that area is so much better because cattle are like live rototillers. Their hoofs have two parts. And as they go through, they trample the old dry stuff into the ground and actually put seed pods down because they have two spots where there's a vacancy in the middle. So they're putting they get two down and one comes up. So you have like two little pulling pods that are in there. So the fact that the targeted thing was non-native species, they love the mustard grass. And the fact is that's one of the biggest fuel supplies that we have in our local mountains. And this is so much more cost beneficial than having people manually go up and weed for the non-native species. This is a lot more cost effective. Plus the fact is that, we got to remember that our open space is treasured by us, and as we see more and more buildings come in, it's nice to be able to go out and see the cattle in an area and show your kids that this is what the whole valley used to look at one time, where this was all a big cattle ranch. And so I'm a huge supporter. I'd like to make sure that we put it in there. And I was looking through the staff report. It says 1 to 2 times, but in your presentation, it said up to 3 times. Can I make a clarification? I'd like to keep it up to 3 times.
Yeah, so we have 1 to 3 times, and then we assess the site. So based on the site conditions, the weather conditions, we will do up to 3, but it might be 2, it might be 1.
So, as a tool in our box of weed mitigation, I think that, if we ever go away from this, it'll be hard to bring it back, because the fact is that the cattle ranchers that are out there, they're getting squeezed in too, just like our local wildlife are. But the fact is, for them looking for spots where they can graze their cattle, it's a lot more cost efficient when they can open a gate and bring them into our pasture and not have to truck them in from another area. So just keep that in the foresight that, if we ever moved away from this for a year or 2, it'd be hard to get that back. And so I'm in full support. I'm an enthusiastic supporter. So on behalf of Foothill Eastern, I'd like to say I'd move this item.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion from Director Voights, and we'll get you your questions. I'll just finish up these motions in a second. I won't vote yet. And then we have a second from Vice Chair Kelly, and this is a Foothill Eastern item only. Sorry. But that's okay. We like your comments and your questions. And now we'll go to Director Connors, and then we'll go to Director Schnell.
The comments are reflective that this is everybody's favorite feel-good program. And it's my understanding then that we had 3 years of a pilot program where we were trying to figure out how it works best, and now we get it into our regular adaptive weed management program. Do you anticipate that there will be continuing regular use in this particular location for the foreseeable future, or do you get a place to where you want it to be, and then you don't need the cows anymore?
Yeah, so as of right now, would like to continue the program for probably a few more seasons until we get the site to a point where the natives are dominant and probably choking out the non-natives. So until we get to that point, the request right now is to continue the grazing program.
And do we have any other mitigation sites in our inventory that might be suitable for this targeted grazing?
So I would say not at this time, but we have other sites that we can look on a site-by-site basis, but we haven't done like a full feasibility that we did for live oak to actually determine if grazing will be appropriate and which type of animal will be appropriate. So we would consider that on a site-by-site specific details.
And I assume that now that we have this grazing, targeted grazing in our arsenal, that might make a difference as TCA evaluates new mitigation sites that it might acquire, because we can look at a site that is grassland and know ahead of time that we have what we need to get it to where it needs to be.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have Director Schnell.
Doctor, thank you. I have to say, this is very clever and smart. I can't take credit because I just joined the board, but those are two words you normally don't associate with government agencies, so very, very clever and smart. A few questions. What has been the rough cost of the program, or I guess the pilot, and then what is the estimated cost moving forward to maintain this program?
Yeah, so we were lucky in this instance that the grazer we were using, 5-bar beef, was grazing next door. So it was a matter of opening the gate and them coming in. So that cost was around $12,000 a year, so about $4,000 per event. Moving forward, and you'll see this reflected in our budget that's coming up with inflationary increases, and also we assumed that if 5-bar beef is not next door and you have to bring in the cattle, we assumed it would be around $15,000.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Very
so
nominal.
pay grazing, so that would be about $45,000 a year.
Okay, and then the other question is, flashy fuels. I mean, unfortunately, California is stricken with, fires. I mean, we're getting a little bit of relief with all the water. But, as you're doing your maintenance, if you see that there isn't enough of these flashy fuels being consumed by the animals, do we have, like, Parks and Rec coming in and actually cleaning some of this additional growth to prevent fires during the fire season?
Well, so we actually do that. So this is part of an integrated weed management program.
Got it.
So if we're not using cattle, we may go in there and do it mechanically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, it's super smart. We don't have to pay them wages, and we don't have to worry about CLA, so it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Schnell. Any other comments or questions?
One more, please.
Director Voits?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the cattle out there grazing, would we be out there manually pulling non-native vegetation?
So if it's not grazing, there'll be ongoing maintenance. So we may need to do spot-by-spot treatment of the non-natives, like the thistle would go out and grab those out by hand. And then in the areas where we're required by the county to do the fuel management, where we have habitable structures on the other side, we would go and mechanically mow those if we're not using grazing. So with this program, we're able to achieve the county goals and also the goals for the site. So we didn't have to do that extra bit.
So on that note, and the health of the soil that's out there, I love Director Connor's suggestion that we look at other alternatives that we can maybe utilize cattle, not only for the rototilling and the manure that's out there. I think that's all good. I mean, some of the people in the green community don't like that, but the fact is that I think that we are moving in the right direction. I think that, once again, TCA is a leader, whether it be the Saddle Club up in the canyon or Live Oak, wildlife fencing, the things, I think that TCA is well-positioned to be a leader nationally in what we do. So thank you to y'all. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Doug, for the great words.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and seeing no other comments, thank you. We already have a motion and a second, and all those in favor from Foothill Eastern, say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. The cows win.
Thank you.
Okay, then we'll now go on to any further public comments or requests?
There are no public comments.
Okay, good. We'll go to the Chief Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Chair. I will be brief. I am pleased to share that Fitch Ratings recently announced an upgrade for the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency's toll revenue bonds to A- for our senior lien bonds and BBB+ for junior lien bonds, with a positive outlook going forward. In addition, Fitch reaffirmed the San Joaquin Hills Corridor Agency's senior bonds at BBB+ and junior bonds at BBB, and revised the rating to a positive outlook going forward. As part of the board's approved early paydown program, it is anticipated that the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency will have the opportunity for an early bond paydown of approximately $200 million in fiscal year '25. This paydown should reflect positively with Fitch and others going forward in future ratings. Lastly, I'd like to update everybody on our spring tours. We hit capacity for those that wanted to participate in both tours. We are evaluating whether we want to add more of those this year and into next fiscal year. We intend to do so as long as demand stays high. In addition to that, if there is any request from board members to have a specific tour, please reach out directly to me or others in the organization. We'll be happy to accommodate that request.
Okay, Director Connors, do you have a question?
You said that the rating agencies revised our bonds to a positive outlook. What was it before that, and what were the factors then that made them change their mind? Because I just had a sense that we were in positive territory for a while. Thanks.
Howard Mallon, Chief Financial Officer. So generally, when the rating agencies are looking at your bonds and evaluating you, they will give an indication to the investors in the market whether there's in this case, a positive outlook would indicate that there's a potential for another upgrade coming in the near future. So if we continue on the path that we're on, there's an expectation from the market that that would occur. When they're not seeing that there's that positive outlook in the next direction, they won't indicate a positive outlook. They will say that they're looking at your rating as sustained where it is at the moment. Not hopefully never for us, but they will also in the opposite direction indicate if there's a negative outlook, which would indicate to the market the opposite.
Thank you. Now we'll go on to chair reports. Chair Heft.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. I gave a brief report at my council meeting this last week about this, and I'm grateful to Michelle Miller and her team for putting together some good talking points. Sometimes you have to put them at kindergarten level when you get into the Fitch ratings and the nuances. So I talked about that. I talked about the bonds being paid down, and one of the things I highlighted were the spring environmental tours. I was really pleased to see that they've filled up really quickly. In fact, we've got a waiting list. And, I'll just emphasize again, the beauty of these areas and the fact that TCA has been protecting them cannot be overstated. I know that we have experts in ornithology and other different nature aspects that we have to bring out so we can have a effective tour. But I actually think this is something we should look to promote more. And we have 2 tours this year. I'd like to see, I think it'd be worth bringing out these experts and the money expended to be able to offer the ability for our drivers, our residents, to see the beauty of Upper Chiquita Canyon and all these different beautiful places that we spend a lot of money keeping beautiful. I think it's just really important that we get that message out there that we're being good stewards again. And I would say another note that I thought was very interesting is when Dr. Faraminga talked about how when we purchase these, we rezone them to protect them from any building and any development. And I think that's important for us to let people know that we're championing that as well, and that we will continue to do so. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Heft. And now I'll go on to the adjournment, which I'd like to do in the memory of Mark Schwing. Mark was a former director of the Foothill Eastern Corridor Agency Board from 1993 to 1995 and 2009 and 2013 from the city of Yorba Linda. In addition to serving on the board, he was active member of the Joint Toll Operations and Legislative Committees. After graduating from the United States Naval Academy in 1963, Schwing specialized in classified ocean survey work during his distinguished 25-year naval career. He retired from the U.S. Navy in 1984 and moved to Yorba Linda in 1986. Shortly thereafter, began his long career of community leadership and service to the citizens of Yorba Linda and Orange County. Schwing was first elected to the Yorba Linda City Council in 1988 and was reelected twice, serving until 2000. He was successfully reelected in 2008 and served to 2016. Throughout his civilian career, he held many leadership roles. In addition to serving on the Foothill Eastern Board of Directors, he served as past chair of the Orange County United Way, past president of the North Orange County Division of the American Heart Association, and past president of Aware Concerned Citizens Organized for Responsible Development. Mark Schwing will be remembered as a dedicated naval officer and community leader who left a lasting legacy of public service and achievement. And now we'll adjourn. The next regularly scheduled meeting will be of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency Board of Directors and the Foothill Eastern Board of Directors will be held Thursday, April 11th, 9:30 a.m. at TCA offices. Thank you very much, everyone.